Is there maybe something backstage in the
There
setting?
it is.
Are we on?
Yeah, but I don't know how to take you.
I've got to now stream like that.
No.
And we are back. Welcome back. Apparently, this episode wants to get done twice. We are, I don't know, from time to time we get these difficulties going on, and we don't have the same listeners that the fight last night with Mike Tyson and Jake Paul did, which I watched. It was incredible. Not the fight itself, but it was incredible what they did. But anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit later. I want to say this: we are 108 episodes away from 100. Hopefully that's going to be sometime in maybe late February, early March, somewhere around there, somewhere around the springtime, which would be great because I love the springtime. So if the 100th episode's there in the spring, that'd be great. I have one surprise that I am hoping to that I've got planned for that particular episode, but maybe some other things kind of too to kind of ramp up for that, because I know you're going, hey, you got 8 episodes, but you got to realize we're not doing this in a week. So we're not got like 8 days to make this happen. We've got 2.5, 3 months to plan and make this happen. So again, please continue to like, subscribe, share, tell your friends about us. When we started this almost 3 years ago, the idea was to have 100 listeners, 100 subscribers by the 100th episode. Thank God. I mean, between YouTube and Facebook, we've got about 265, 270, something like that, between both of those platforms. And so we're almost at 300. So more than doubled what originally was planned. But again, I just want to bring that out, right out the gate. Michael, say hello to everyone.
Hey guys, and gals, glad to have you back with us. Glad to be here. Like he was discussing, we need your help. It only takes a moment, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share it. YouTube took our episode from 2 weeks ago down. It is no longer there. With no explanation, no message, no reasoning. We found that they consistently throttle our views.
Yeah.
We're fighting an uphill battle. We need to make it like the election, make it so big they can't cheat. Not like we could topple Google, but we do need assistance. It only takes a couple seconds, and it would really help us out.
And again, I said this when we first started, but I didn't realize we weren't on. If you have questions, type them into the chat. Let us know from there. If you have questions or you can't hear us, whatever. If you send us texts, we're probably not going to see those. We will see some, but send it in the chat, because that actually helps us as far as the algorithms are concerned with YouTube. Enough of that. Last night, Netflix, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. A lot of people they were underwhelmed. I wasn't, because it was exactly what I thought they were going for. It accomplished exactly what I thought they were. I'm not saying I'm smarter than everyone else. I just, the thing about me is I love the entertainment industry. I mean, one of the reasons why I do this podcast is because I'm somewhat of a performer myself. I enjoy it. And I knew what they were doing, and they achieved it. And that was that Mike Tyson, this legendary icon, 58 years old, always known as the baddest man on the planet. And he truly is. I mean, you were the one last week talking about him saying he endorsed Trump. The guy says, "Hey, I don't think that's a good idea." He says, "What are you going to do about it?" I didn't expect Mike Tyson to beat Jake Paul. The fans won, the viewers won. I mean, it was millions watching that. And for those of you who are all upset, I just read today that there were Netflix cancellations because of it. Guys, look, relax. Just like we experienced today, we're streaming. When you stream, streaming is still, it's kind of still in its infancy. And you got to allow something to walk first. And it was going to crash the fight because streaming is still not the same as cable TV or satellite network where as a pay-per-view or something of that nature. That had years to develop. Streaming is a platform that you put something on and then you stream it. So when they do a live event like that with millions of people watching, I mean, they were having issues with their mics, and I was glad to see that because it makes me realize I'm not the only one who does. But chill. It'll all be okay.
Well, they had 280 million people simultaneously viewing it, which is probably far. I mean, I don't know what the average view rate is for Netflix. But at one time, here's the other thing. They didn't charge you for it. You got to watch it. If you have
you're just paying your monthly fee.
Exactly. So you're not out anything other than the inconvenience. So what happened for us, my wife and I watched it, and we would have to, Netflix would crash. We'd have to back out, go back in. It would get stuck loading. But, we eventually got to see it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to let that minor inconvenience,
yeah,
lead me to that is one of the problems with society now is one thing that upsets people and they're willing to throw everything away. Same thing with families. Oh, you voted for someone I don't approve of. I'm done. I'm cutting you off.
Yeah.
Like you give up too easily.
Well, did you see there was a couple of, did you see in Jake Paul's corner, one of his ring corner guys had on a Nexus hat and underneath it said "Make America Healthy Again"? Did you see that?
Honestly, wasn't one.
I was paying attention because one of the announcers had made the statement. He said Tyson is hoping to turn the clock back like we did 2 weeks ago, and I know he had to be referencing the election. And he's, and then at the end of the fight, Jake Paul is talking about, we've reset some stuff. I want to be careful about the word reset because that's been a very negative connotation. But he was saying we've taken the country back, and he's waiting for some good things to happen. Here's what I'm most excited about seeing is that we've got people like Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, and then even the guy that's the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, who are very, and then there's a player for the 49ers who are very openly MAGA supporters. Not that I don't care that there's so much MAGA supporters. What that says to me is MAGA is really the new direction the Republicans are going. And Abraham Lincoln, as he was the president, and I pray for Trump that the same end doesn't come to him. I really do. I mean, he's already had 2 attempts on his life, but he is kind of the guy that is kicking the MAGA movement off. I mean, when you got guys like RFK, because see, Make America Healthy Again, that is RFK's. And when you see that on Netflix, of all places, it's making us realize that these streaming platforms are realizing, hey, the American people spoke up. We better reel this back a little bit.
Well, I think that one thing, regardless of your stance on the election, one thing that you can note is it has broken the stronghold of the corporate media. CNN's having massive layoffs. More and more, I mean, millions and millions of people are going to platforms like Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
They're going to alternative sources. They're not looking to any of the big conglomerates for their information. And so they're realizing that they've shot themselves in the foot. To our listeners, go out there and Google news stations all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And you can find these clips of, like 90 news stations from different so-called backgrounds, between Fox News, CBS, NBC, and they'll all say the exact, it's verbatim. They're reading it off the teleprompter. It's all the same. People are tired of it, and they're starting to see through the lies and the wall that the corporate media has put up, and they don't want it. And so it's great to have people who are starting to be enlightened and understanding that the media has become an extension of the government. Instead of reporting an unbiased story, they're feeding you whatever party is in power wants you to hear. One in particular, that's why you're seeing this movement go outside of political boundaries. They picked up Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, RFK Jr., all of which were lifelong Democrats.
Yeah.
But they saw the direction the party itself was headed and the direction the country was headed. It's like a superhero movie. The lineup, the new cabinet. I really, really, truly believe that they're going to do some great things. You've got RFK and Vivek and Elon Musk that are going to do the Department of Government Efficiency. Trump has appointed Tulsi Gabbard to National Security Director. He has Matt Gaetz as his Attorney General. We're moving in a great direction. And if you look at it, you've got people literally who were from both sides of the aisle who are uniting under the banner of making our country more prosperous and a better place for our children and our grandchildren. They want to improve the economy, get us out of these useless wars, bring peace to the Middle East and to Europe. And that's things that should unite people on both sides of the aisle. It's really been enlightening to see that you've garnered people who were at one point completely opposed to your position, and the thing they're uniting on is helping our country to excel.
Well, that's why that I have said and still say that this administration is the closest to team of rivals that we've had since Abraham Lincoln. That's why, look, this guy didn't escape two assassination attempts, and I'll always say three because Mar-a-Lago was an assassination attempt. I don't care. I'm on record saying it. I've said it on this podcast before. I say it again. That was an assassination attempt. They went in there with orders to shoot to kill if necessary. I absolutely believe the DOJ was hoping that something would happen and they could do it. And then it would be, hey, we didn't assassinate. We were just in here doing our job. They assassinated the guy. They killed the guy. Look, ATF killed the guy here in Arkansas. They did. We've heard nothing about it. That's why that the DOJ needs to be overhauled. I'm all for getting rid of it. just like I am the Department of Education. Look, you want better, get rid of the Department of Justice, get rid of the Department of Education, your local police. Now, don't get rid of them, but your local police will have more money and more resources to do what they need to do. Police officers will be paid more money. Get rid of the Department of Education. Educators will be paid more money. Bottom line, they'll be paid more. I still say we keep the marshals, because the marshals have been there since Washington. Our founders realized the necessity of having a federal law enforcement, if you will, for a good reason. But we don't need ATF. We don't need DEA. We don't need FBI. We don't need all of those guys.
Well, so I tried to search, and as best I could find, there are 18 different intelligence agencies, some of which you probably never even heard of.
Yeah.
The NGA, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency.
Well, I just found out, I heard the other day, it was one of them is DNI, which is the military's version of the CIA. Now, my question that whole thing is, the CIA is supposed to be working closely related to the military anyway. So why does the military have their version of the CIA?
Well, you've got there's a myriad. See, this is the problem. Government is like cancer.
Yeah.
And once it grows, it never shrinks unless acted upon.
Yeah.
And it will continue to grow and envelop other things. My question would be, how many agencies, intelligence and otherwise, do we have that are doing the same jobs, that there is complete overlap? Because I would reckon that there's a lot of inefficiency because we have so much redundancy. You have people doing the same things, just in different areas. What I'm really excited about is, RFK and Vivek and Elon Musk getting in there and really optimizing the government.
Yeah.
What people forget is that, we don't work for the government. The government works for us.
Yep.
We've lost sight of that. The government has become so large and looming. And I think that's why so many people are afraid to mess with it.
Yeah.
Is because of the complexity or the perceived complexity. They look at it and go, it's this massive thing, really and truly, it could be trimmed down. I love the analogy of Twitter because when Elon Musk purchased Twitter, I think they lost 75 or 80% of their employees. I think they're only running on 20% of the people who are originally employed. And guess what? It works fine.
Well, and you've got all these people that are upset because they know what's going to happen is the same thing that Musk did with Twitter. One of the reasons they lost all those employees is those employees wanted to work from home. And, working from home, they're losing productivity. They're losing, production hours with employees because these guys, I know a lot of people think, well, I'm going to work from home. I'm still going to give 100. No, you aren't, because there's too many distractions. That is the whole purpose of an office. And we think because we live in a much more modern world that we ought to just do away with offices and everybody work from home. Well, some things you can't work from home. And RFK's already said that he's got a list of 600 people that he's going to let go when he takes over. Which departments he got? He's got the
Health and Human Services.
Health and Human Services. And Trump's already said that there's a whole slew of Washington established guy or of different departments that he's going to let go for the reason that they don't want to come into the office. So same thing. I mean, the federal government needs to be trimmed down. And here's what I think. On election night, I didn't watch the returns on any of the network channels. I watched it. I was going back and forth between Daily Wire and The Blaze. And I was catching up a little bit on the Young Turks because I was, I'm not just going to sit and go, because that's the problem we've got where we watch our side and we completely don't pay attention. And I have been inviting people all along on different chat rooms that I'm on, throwing the Exchange podcast out there saying, hey, come on and listen to us. Come on and be a part of what we're doing here. Because one of the things that I think that last night, and that's why that I titled this, Are We There Yet? Last night, watching the fight on Netflix, I think what that proved is, I think election night proved that a lot of people are moving towards the streaming platforms to get their news, to get their entertainment. And I don't want to just see network because, there's a lot of people that are older that are, they're still
vested.
They're vested. I mean, that's what they're used to. And it'll be the same thing when we reach that age. I mean, there'll be something new that'll come on. And I don't want to see older people neglected in what they need to get, because, the whole world has changed. The world is changing, and it always does. But I think that you need to have a little respect for the people that, as you said, I think is a perfect word, they're vested.
Well, I think if there's a few things that need to change. One, the news needs to just report the situation, or they nitpick or they cherry pick from an interview and pull certain terms or words, and they make it into something it's not.
Yeah.
What they need to start doing is actually giving the people the information,
Yes,
and letting them make up their own mind, let them make a decision.
Yeah.
If they did that, I don't think their viewership would be plummeting. The other thing is, if the government wants the people to trust it, it needs to be more transparent.
Yeah.
The thing is, I would be much less opposed. I think that our taxes are too high, but I would be more.
Trump says he's got a plan to fix that. Get rid of the income tax.
Well, but I wouldn't be as opposed to paying taxes if I actually knew what the money was going to do. Because they say, oh, it's for roads and for infrastructure and for this and that. And then I look at the potholes and the cracks and,
Which that actually brings up a good conversation. Because I do look at how the founders left us. They left us with no taxes. We didn't have any until the 1930s. I'm just asking, why would you not, because I'm rather vehemently opposed to taxes. Why would you not be opposed to paying them?
If there was a way to maintain our standard of living and not pay them, I'd be all for it.
Which his plan is to
use tariffs.
Yeah.
Which, if that was possible, then I'm all for it. But
you don't think that's possible?
Well, I think he can get it done. My point is, in our current standing, I like if the money was, if I felt like they were spending it in an appropriate manner, I would not be as opposed. If I knew where the money was going, public schools don't run for free.
Right.
The roads don't build themselves. I understand that. But I feel like I don't see, if we're all paying thousands of dollars, somewhere there's a disconnect.
So then, not trying to cut you off, but, when you read his book, Art of the Deal, Trump's always saying, set the stake out well beyond what you're actually wanting. Then that way you can negotiate backwards, which is a negotiating tactic that most people use. So then are you thinking, because I've kind of wondered this too, is it just like with the Department of Justice, just like with the Department of Education, do you think that he may be saying, let's get rid of the federal income tax and leave taxing up to the states?
I mean, I guess it's possible. That's the thing about the 10th Amendment. anything not set forth in the Constitution is to be determined by the state. If you look at taxes, that's a main reason that people are flooding out of California. Each state has a different standard. So let me also posit this. If the federal government is going to do away with a federal income tax, the states still need to raise money in order to.
And that's what I'm asking. Maybe it's a thing where he's going, we're just going to kick the taxes back to the states. Let each state, hey, some states, like, which state is it that doesn't even have a tax? Well, I mean, there are several states that don't have a state income tax. So, I think when people are keeping more of their money, they're going to spend more money, which to me forces the government to do what they need to do.
Yes. And like I said, if I felt like the money was being spent efficiently, like we weren't wasting it, or it wasn't going to, like, federal taxes. Okay, we're sending $10 million to Pakistan for gender studies. We're sending $87 million a week to the Taliban. I don't want to support those things.
Right.
I don't want to pay into things that ultimately come back to bite us.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep spending exorbitant amounts of money on wars that are really
nothing to do with us.
Yes, that don't benefit our country. In fact, I wish if we lived in a perfect world, there would be no war. Some wars are necessary.
Well, what is it?
But
our favorite show, Blacklist, Raymond Redden, what was his name?
Reddington.
Reddington would always say, if the world were candy and nuts, oh, what a wonderful world it would be.
Yeah. But, the simple fact is that's not the case.
Right.
But there is so much inefficiency and waste and just utter disregard for the will of the American people. And they're starting to see the pushback. It's not, because then you have other people that are trying to twist it. It's misogyny, it's racism, it's this, it's that. No, it's simply the people are tired of the way that the country is trending. They're tired of going to the grocery store and spending several $100s a week. The last time we went to Sam's, we didn't even fill the cart up. It's $276. I'm going, good grief. I remember as a kid, we'd go to the store and, for less than $100, the cart would be packed.
Right.
Like everything has become significantly more expensive. And inflation is growing. We know that the government was falsifying. They were fudging the numbers so that people didn't feel as bad, but they're still feeling the hurt. What's happening is you're finally getting people that are going, wait, what they're telling me and what I'm actually experiencing are two different things.
Right.
And so, now we have I can't believe I'm saying I agree with Jake Paul, but, he really put it well, saying, we kind of have a fresh start. Like we have an opportunity to do something. And I totally agree with that. And I love the fact that we're uniting both sides of the aisle for a common cause.
To me, everybody's hate on Jake Paul is, goes back to wrestling, not wrestling, but wrestling. It goes back to, you've got the baby face and you've got the heel. And last night, Mike Tyson clearly was the baby face. And Jake Paul was the heel. I mean, he just is. He calls himself the problem child. In fact, Logan Paul, his brother, I think did wrestle for the WWE. What you have there is, am I saying that fight was fixed or predetermined? It could have been. I think that I think that even if it wasn't, number one, they used 14-ounce gloves versus the 12, which is standard for boxing. So they weren't, that was really more sparring style gloves anyway.
They did 2-minute rounds instead of 3.
Something that was said last night in the fight. Well, actually, the 2-minute rounds, and they explained that was so that you would get more action. And even Roy Jones Jr. said, that keeps it keeps the one fighter from running out of energy. But one of the things that was said last night, I can't remember the woman's name that was standing there with Roy Jones. Shouldn't be forgetting it, but she had made the statement. She said, "Makes me wonder why Jake Paul doesn't tee off on him. Meaning just go to town and knock him out." And Roy Jones said, "I hope that doesn't happen," which said to me, there really was no knockout punches thrown by that. If you know how to knock somebody out, it's not hard to do, and you don't have to use a lot of pressure to do it. But I think both fighters were kind of pulled back, and I can understand Jake Paul, because when you go back to the guy that beat Muhammad Ali so bad, and then Mike Tyson went into the ring and got revenge for what he did to Muhammad Ali, Jake Paul realized, if I beat him that bad, I'm going to have a slew of fighters lined up who, the next time I get in the ring with them, it's going to be gloves off. Metaphorically.
Well, I think a lot of Jake Paul's abrasiveness is by design.
Yeah.
He like you said,
he's a showman.
Exactly. He's playing a character. And so it was refreshing after the fight to hear him speak. Like I was really relieved that it was so amicable.
Well, I'm going to go here, and I don't try to make everything about race, because I hate it when people do that. I hate it when podcasters do it. I hate it when news people do it. But I remember something that Tommy Morrison said. Tommy Morrison was actually scheduled to fight Tyson, and when they went, at that time, not all the states required sanctions like they do now. But they were fighting. I think the fight was scheduled in West Virginia. And that's when they found out that Tommy Morrison had HIV. And now Morrison was a conspiracy theorist. I think the man did have HIV. He believed he didn't. He believed that they had tested him positive, because I think he kind of thought Tyson was scared of him. And Tyson may have been. I mean, Tommy Morrison was a great fighter. I mean, say what you want to. Tommy Morrison was a great fighter. And he said, and I don't totally disagree with this, he said a white man is not supposed to be a champion in professional boxing. And he said people like Don King and others, he said, I'm not saying Tyson, but he said people like Don King and others are scared that I'm going to beat Tyson and take the belt. And I think a lot of the hate that has come down for Jake Paul, yes, a lot of it is his own doing. But I do think some of it is the fact that it is a white man who is breathing life back into the sport of boxing, because MMA was taking over boxing. Now NFL's at the top of the game. And Mike Tyson made the statement years ago. They asked him, they said, why is MMA taking over boxing? He said, because there's not anybody who knows how to talk. He said, nobody knows how to stir up a crowd anymore. Jake Paul does, and he proved that. I mean, he had, what did he have in there? 70,000 people in that arena? And that, a lot of that was Mike Tyson's fans, but a lot of that was due to the fact that Jake Paul knows how to do a promo.
Yeah, well, they were going, honestly, I thought there would be more of a fight.
I didn't think so. I thought we got exactly what.
Given his, I was a little taken back at how bad Tyson looked.
Well, yeah. He didn't look like he did in the Roy Jones fight.
No, he looks like he, physically, like looking at him, he still looks pretty imposing.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't get in the ring with him.
But I felt like he just looked lost. Like he had that look.
He did when he walked to the ring. I noticed that.
Like he just didn't know where he was or
Well, that was 19 years since his last fight.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, he's 58. There's a reason that professional athletes typically don't, they don't make it into their 30s.
Well, how old was George Foreman? Foreman was still in his 40s, right, when he won the world title?
I believe so.
He might at the late 40s, maybe early 50s. And the bout that he had with Roy Jones, Tyson was 54, and it was an exhibition. Both men knew they weren't going to hurt each other. That fight last night, that's why I don't think it was predetermined. I think it was a real fight. Because like you said, I mean, it's been 19 years since Tyson's had that kind of fight. And I think he knew, I don't think he knew exactly. I do think that Jake Paul was holding back. Jake Paul could have went for a knockout punch on more than one occasion, and he didn't.
Well, honestly, I think Jake Paul was getting gassed.
Yeah.
Because at the end, he wasn't even holding his arms up. Like, I think he was legitimately getting tired. But Tyson, like his footwork, like it's like his legs didn't want to move.
Roy Jones made that statement several times.
Yeah. When he was wearing the knee brace.
Yeah.
Like, I think that, well, I mean, take the average 60-year-old man and throw him in the ring. Like,
Yeah.
and Mike Tyson is not average, but, you know, he's had how many years of wear and tear?
Yeah.
Like
Heavyweight fighters typically never can go very, I mean, even if you go back and you watch the fights, even with Muhammad Ali and in his day, heavyweight fighters were not as big as they are, even in today's day and time. But Muhammad Ali that's what made him so good, was he would let the other fighter, because heavyweight fighters can't go that long. And Muhammad Ali always knew, once we're out of the 6th, 7th, 8th round, fight's mine. That's why he was always running. He's going to go, something, if he goes to 8, it'll be late, but by 9, whatever, he always knew that. And so I personally think that we got exactly what they were going to do. It was to build, and it was to build the other fighters. I mean, these are new fighters coming up, and it was to put that shot back in the arm of the boxing industry that for a long time has been missing. I mean, you've had the Floyd Mayweathers and guys like that, but they've not really been able to do in boxing what Tyson was going to do and did do last night in that fight.
Well, it's true. Like I said, I think they said 280 million people streaming.
And that's why it kept crashing.
Yeah, but that's huge.
Well, I mean, go back to when a few months ago, 3, 4, whatever it was, when Elon Musk interviewed Donald Trump, and they didn't have anywhere near that many listening, I don't think. And that interview crashed a few times. In fact, they got started late because it was crashing. Streaming platforms are not at a point that they can do that yet. Again, that's why I'm saying, are we there yet? What I kind of hope is, if networks going to stick around, then understand the American people and people around the world are not where the elites want to take us. And I think I'm hoping they're learning their lesson, that we need to rein it in a little bit.
Yeah, well, the will and direction of elites, not even in the government. I'm talking the people who call politicians and tell them what to do, and the will of the people are in direct contradiction.
Yes.
And so, there comes a point where that can no longer be held together.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that.
Yeah.
The people are seeing through the facade. They see, or starting to. I don't think people realize, there are ultra rich, powerful people who call politicians and tell them to do a certain thing. Same reason you see a lot of actors and entertainers come out and speak on someone's behalf politically, because they get a call from someone who's powerful. It says, you're going to go do this. And they know that if they don't, their livelihood will suffer.
Yeah.
It's no different than what, is happening to our politicians. Someone calls them, tells them they're going to do something. That's why the establishment is so distraught with what is coming, because they're not conforming to the norm.
Yeah.
The norm for Washington politics is, you keep your head down, you get rewarded, you do what you're told, you get money, you get power, or, perceived power. You get all these things. A case in point, Joe Biden is not running this country.
No.
And Kamala's not running this country. So
Especially
who is?
not now.
So who is?
Yeah.
That should tell you everything you need to know. That certain politicians are nothing more than a puppet.
Yeah.
And they are at the behest of powerful people.
Yeah.
And they get told what to do. And if they don't, then...
Yeah, there's they're gonna take a long walk off of a short pier.
Yeah.
And they'll be fitted for cement shoes and any other mafia movie phrase you can come up with. But I think the American people they've been speaking up, and I think Americans. I had this conversation with somebody last week, and they were talking about how that during the summer of the riots and George Floyd, I was actually worried about America, and I was going, okay, have they kind of set all of this stuff in place, and now they're just going to pounce and take control and seize power? He said, but what I noticed was, he said, when you look at Europe and there's this big riot that goes place, or this big coup that takes place, he said, it's like it's within seconds and the whole country's behind it, which we saw. I mean, when you study history, you see that with the Bolshevik Revolution, the Nazi Socialist Revolution in Germany. But in the United States, he said, even in today's day and time, with the technology and the social media, and he said, I didn't see the cities just falling for it like dominoes. He said, as I expected it. And he said, I realized just how smart the founders were and how they built this country. It's very difficult for someone to seize power in this country.
Yeah. Well, something else I wanted to hit on before we finish up is the Harris campaign spent over $1 billion. $1 billion.
And we were talking about that before coming on the podcast. I think they're under investigation over what she spent on the celebrity she brought in.
Yeah. Well, so let's disregard the celebrities just for a moment. She spent $50 million just on staff.
Wow.
Donald Trump's campaign, I think, spent 10, or it was something, just a fraction of what. Mm-hmm. So my point was, there are certain politicians and certain political affiliations that will take all of your money and blow it.
Yeah.
And her campaign was a perfect reflection of that.
Yes.
You're $20 million in debt and you spent $1 billion. Like what? I mean,
what did you do? Yeah.
It's insane.
And which also goes to show you, thank God, why she did not win. And thank God she did not win the election, because could you imagine what she would do to the economy?
Well, we're approaching a point where the interest on our debt will consume all of the money that we're making.
Right.
We're $35 trillion in the hole.
Yeah.
I don't think people can realize, like, that's a lot. I mean, it's unfathomable.
Yeah.
And it's growing. So, like I said, the only way to turn the tide, or to roll it back, or to get it under control, to stop the bleed, is to cut unnecessary spending.
Yeah.
And start looking at investing money in things that are going to prosper us.
Right.
And
And I think, one of the things that he'll do, I really do, I think he'll do it maybe first day, but definitely within the first 100 days, is he will start rolling back the regulations that the Biden administration placed on the economy that has gotten us to the point where we are, why we're paying such high interest rates, why we're paying such high grocery prices, why we're paying such high gas prices.
well, so Trump said one of the things he could do from the beginning to start cutting down on the everyday person's cost is to cut the cost of energy. So drill, he's saying drill, baby, drill.
Yeah.
So let's just put it this way: if diesel drops in price, then the truckers that are having to, pay well over $1,000 each
Yeah.
fill up, that will drop. So you'll see the cost of your products drop. Like your cost of gas will drop. You'll be more willing to get out and travel. Yeah. Once they open us back up to actually become energy independent, where we're not importing all of the natural resources, you'll see the cost of everything drop.
Well, you hit the nail on the head when you said being able to get out and travel. That's something that the left despises, is people being able to do that, because that was one of the things that was heavily restricted during COVID, was people being able to get in their car and come and go as they please. That is a huge issue with the left, and it's for control purposes. But they do not want people coming and going as we please.
Which the absolute bitter irony of that is they're going to allow people to come here with no vetting, no documentation, and go all over the country.
Yeah.
But they want to restrict you. Mm-hmm. Like that. That should open your eyes. And I think it really did for a lot of people.
Yeah, it did. And I think, just like in 1920, when people got scared after the Woodrow Wilson administration, and they overwhelmingly voted Calvin Coolidge in, and a lot more Republicans and conservatives after that, in which we went into the roaring 20s. I mean, our economy boomed under Calvin Coolidge. The one thing about the left is they overplay their hand. They do it all the time. And eventually, Thomas Jefferson said the American people get it wrong a lot, but they eventually get it right. And I think they definitely got it right this time. And that is another thing that I kind of want to hit on before we go. The big question, are we there yet? I mean, look at how many people on the left are just melting down, thinking that Trump's going to put them in some kind of internment camps because they didn't vote for him. Well, first off, your name is protected. Unless you tell someone who you voted for, nobody knows. Your vote is private. And furthermore, you guys have already seen him from 2016 to 2020. And I know, well, he's unopposed now. He wasn't going to do that then, and he's not going to do that now. And trust me when I say that there's plenty of people that are not going to sit by and watch that happen if he even tried it.
Yeah. I think they've watched too many of the major news networks and have been drummed into this fear and have been convinced that he is, some dictator incarnate.
Yeah.
It's not. Like, reality is very far from the truth for certain people.
Well, and, now the big argument is that Starlink, which is Elon Musk's company, made 20 million votes for Kamala Harris disappear.
Oh, good grief.
So, all of us who were conspiracy theorists over the Dominion voting machines, which I will say, I said from day one, stay away from the Dominion voting machines. That's not where the election was stolen. But they said that we were conspiracy theorists because we believed that there were those among us who believed, the Kraken and all that nonsense. Guys like myself just said, people like myself just said, hey, you know what? It wasn't there. It was in the mail-in ballots. And that's where it was. But now they're saying that Starlink made the 20 million for Kamala Harris disappear.
How? Or do they, is this just a theory with no backing.
It's a theory with no backing. They're coming from every endeavor. They're saying that Starlink was hooked up to all the voting machines and just.
You know what it was? The planets misaligned and somehow their chakras and their crystals didn't work.
George Soros didn't show up.
Yeah.
If George Soros showed up,
And did his evil laugh.
no, it was too big to rig. It was too big to rig, and they didn't have an agenda, and they didn't have narrative, and so they realized, hey, the election's lost. We lost.
So if you look at the vote totals for the last 4 elections, actually, I guess you could go 2012, 2016, 2020, so on and so forth. The numbers are very consistent.
Yes.
It was the 2020 election that was way off. The 15 million votes out of nowhere. We didn't see that this time. The numbers are in line. I think people are just looking for every far-fetched excuse as to why it turned out the way it did, instead of accepting the reality that more than half this country wants to go in a different direction.
Yeah. And
Plain and simple.
Yeah, they do want to go in a different direction. And again, I got a text from somebody saying they don't agree with my theory on Jake Paul because being a white guy. He said, I don't think that's the problem. The dude's a total tool. And he is. But again, I think it is the baby face.
Well, here's what I think. And what I truly think is that he's obnoxious. He's in your face. Do you remember when Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, was in when he first got introduced into wrestling?
Yeah.
He was a bad guy and everyone hated him. And then somehow now everyone loves him.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
He's exploiting people's emotion.
He's a performer. I mean, Muhammad Ali did it. It sold more fights because people wanted to see Mike Tyson knock him out.
Oh, I would have loved it.
Oh, that would have been great. I mean, but because all the memes with Glass Jaw and Mike Tyson from Mike Tyson's Punch back in the 80s.
Yeah.
If that fight would have been a little bit more prime style Tyson, I think we'd have had a totally different. But at the end of the day, the Nature Boy Ric Flair always said, I'm the dirtiest player in the game. And that's exactly what Jake Paul is. He's the dirtiest player in the game. And he knows, you want to sell this? You either got to make people love you or you got to make people hate you. And I think Jake Paul realizes his strong suit is I'm not likable enough to make people love me that much.
He's good at playing the villain.
That's right. He calls himself the problem child.
Yeah.
So he knows his niche and he works it well. That's why I'm saying, he probably is a tool. I won't deny that. But he knows that and he uses it.
Yeah. Well, I find him to be, like I said earlier, I find him to be abrasive.
Yeah.
I really,
He is.
I dislike the character he plays.
Yeah.
There's something when we're not on air, I'll tell you that he did that really.
Yeah, I'm not defending because I don't know enough about him other than I know the hate and in the professional wrestling world they call heat that he gets. He's probably not a good guy. But if you're going to be a bad guy, you can't be a good guy. It was quoted last night at the fight. Jesse the Body said, win or lose, cheat.
Yeah, well, I think it was Roy Jones that said he's got a win-lose or a lose-lose.
Yeah.
If he wins the fight, he still loses because you lost.
No, it was the other guy that was sitting up in the commentator. Yeah. Which is right. If he wins, he beat up a 58-year-old man. If he loses, he lost to an old man.
Yeah.
It was not. Look, Roy Jones, love, hate, whatever it is, there's probably not much of an in between. You either love him or you hate him. Roy Jones put himself in that position deliberately. Jake Paul. I'm not a Jake Paul fan, but I have to appreciate what he did.
Yeah.
He knew how to sell seats.
Boy,
and
he
did it.
he played it, and
Yeah.
he played people's emotions.
Yeah.
I mean, he was right after when they asked him too, if like, who are you gonna fight next? And he was like, they need me.
He's right.
He's not wrong.
No.
He's created this persona that everyone at this point is waiting for someone to clean his clock.
Well,
And
that's what sells seats. Why did people buy into the George Foreman and Muhammad Ali fight? Everybody either wanted to see Muhammad Ali win or they wanted to see him lose. Somebody wanted to see somebody. Somebody wanted to see. People wanted to see someone shut Muhammad Ali up, or they wanted to see Muhammad Ali back it up. And that's what Tyson said. He said, "You've got to have somebody who's a talker." I mean, Floyd Mayweather. People want to see somebody beat him.
well, so the whole slap at the weigh-in and all that, I think it was just theatrics.
Yeah.
Just to get people, get them pulled in.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, I'm not defending. I don't know enough about Jake Paul because I've not really followed his career enough to know. But what I do know about him is he knows he's a bad guy, and he knows how to use it to his favor. And he's made a lot of money doing it, and he's reviving the sport of boxing.
Yeah, because MMA really kind of put a nail in the coffin.
Well, yeah, because you had one thing people hate. You either love it or you hate it. There's no in between. Is an arrogant fighter. There's no happy medium there.
There's a multitude of compilations online of cocky fighters getting knocked out.
Yeah.
Or getting submissions or getting choked out.
Yeah, and there's always that. I mean, that's what made Hulk Hogan in the 1980s was he not he was arrogant, but the saying your prayers, eating your taking your vitamins, and God American apple pie. And then the Attitude Era came about, and it was either you were a bad guy or you were a badder guy. There was really no good guy there. But people want to see an arrogant fighter get beat, or they love what the guy's doing and they want to see him continue to go and back up what he's doing. But either way, it sells. It sells.
It's true.
And that's what Jake Paul's doing. But anyway, today was a little bit more of a light exchange. Thank you for being with us again this week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and tell all your friends about us. Join in on the exchange. Be here. We're on our way to 100 episodes. Thank God we're headed that way. Lord willing, we're going to get there. And this podcast is continuing to grow. Thank you for joining us each week. Thank you for liking. But again, continue to tell your friends about us. Michael?
Well, we really appreciate your support. It means a lot. It's definitely trying for him in the technical aspect. And, for me physically, it's a little more difficult than I'd like. But we're going to keep doing it as long as the good Lord allows. And we're just glad to have you along for the ride. So I want to leave you with one verse of scripture, talking about the characters we play or the works we do. Just remember that someday we are all appointed to die and we'll all face judgment. And it is not your good works that earn you a place in. I'll leave you with Ephesians 2, verses 8 and 9. For grace you have been saved through faith. And this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. Remember that your ultimate sacrifice died on Calvary. It's not what you do on this planet that earns you a place in God's eternal kingdom, but in the sacrifice that Christ made.
Yeah. Thank God for that. Amen to that. Again, thank you for being here. Not sure about next week or the Saturday after, since it's going to definitely the Saturday after there will not be a podcast. I'm not sure about next Saturday, but we will be back in the interim between Thanksgiving and Christmas for at least maybe 1 or 2 Saturdays, and then we'll be ready to kickstart another new year.
Hit the ground running.
And that's the thing about year ends, is that they, years come and go, and the holidays are here, and a lot of people are hustle and bustle. But we, thank the Lord, have survived, I think, 2. This will be our 3rd weekend, and God has always helped us, and we've always been right back here. And we will see you. Hopefully next week. If not, then have a great holiday. Have great Thanksgiving. I call it Thanksgiving, not Friendsgiving, because Thanksgiving is, in fact, just that. You can't secularize it. It is to thank God for his blessing and his provision. Until then, we will see you. Have a great week and be blessed.